Today on Gaudete Sunday, we finish our homily series on promises. And so just to review, the first Sunday we spent time pondering what it means to wait and why we don't wait well on the Lord's promises and where that leads us in our need sometimes towards temptations and sin. We invited you towards an awareness of the Lord's mercy, that he desires to fulfill promises, to remind you of hope. Last Sunday, we spent time telling glory stories. So if in the first Sunday, the temptation is to pick up and to write our own story, not to wait for the Lord of promises to write the ending, last Sunday, we spent time telling stories of the glory, of the Lord's promises and how he fulfills those promises and that we can trust in him. Today, on Gaudete Sunday, the day where I match the candle in pink, the invitation is to rejoice, to express what we feel. As in, the Lord is about to arrive, and just like parents who towards the end of a pregnancy begin to nest a little bit in anticipation, we as a people of God should respond to what has already been given to us, right? There's a natural sense in our heart that we should respond with joy. Because if we don't, things don't quite add up. It means that there's not something interior within us. Be like, I'm sure you've seen online or you've seen the kind of meme, if you will, of videotaping young, newly minted mothers telling, if you will, their husband that they're pregnant, right? And if the father, the newly minted father, immediately responds with kind of the, oh boy, or oh no. But there's a sense of an immediate response that comes from what? A place of truth. If you knew someone who won the lotto and their response was, it happened. Wait, I don't know if you understand what a lotto means. I don't think you understand how much money just landed in your lap. There's a response, and if it is not present, something deeper is afoot. Today, we take stock of what the Lord has done, and the question that I have for you is your relationship with Jesus a two-way street? Is there a response back? Have you responded yes to the Lord? Have you dedicated yourself to him? Are you living within that promise? Because it's more than a promise, it's a covenant. And from that covenant, life is born. To be a Christian must mean something. We can't play act. We can't be the father who fakes it for the mother. My question for you this Sunday is, the past 2 Sundays we've been talking about God's promises and our failure in those promises, but what promises will you make back to him? And I don't mean the kind of promises that you might tell a story about, like, Lord, if you give me $1 million, I'll do X, Y, and Z. That's not the kind of promise I'm talking about. I'm talking about the promise that Jesus is asking from you, not the one you're willing to make, but the one Jesus is requesting. Come, follow me. Go, make disciples of all nations. Those are his requests. Come, follow me, and go make disciples. To love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul and with all your mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. These are the things he requests from us. You may not know this, but you've already responded to him. The church has formalized, made ritual, our need to respond to the Lord. We call them our baptismal promises. When you were an infant, your godfather or godmother, your parents said them for you. When you were confirmed, you said them for yourself. Each Easter, the church has asked you to reaffirm your baptismal promises, to reject Satan and all his empty promises, to profess your faith. All of these things are intuitive responses that dedicate and change you. At baptism, back there, when we do the baptismal promises, immediately following is something that absolutely changes the human heart. The soul is left permanently marked by that covenant, that change, that exchange. In theology, we call it an indelible mark. That means that etch-a-sketch cannot be undone. You are marked as his beloved son or daughter. No sin can ever wipe that away. In the church, when we bless something, it means to be redirected, dedicated to its new direction, its new source, its new object. So that when you bring your rosaries to me, or you bring a cross or crucifix, or you're asking me to bless water, what you're actually asking me to do is, hey, Father, can you rededicate this thing and make it about Jesus rather than anything else? And by that dedication, can it help me rededicate my own heart to the Lord? It changes as well as its purpose changes. In the same way, when we profess our faith in Jesus Christ, when we renew our baptismal promises, we live in the promise. We rededicate ourselves, we redirect ourselves back to Jesus. We have here in front 2 new chalices. There's a third one coming, but because of the pandemic, just like Amazon, shipping's a problem. Although we're not using Amazon. I did not buy a chalice from Amazon. It's coming specially from Spain. But we have a new one here for our Sunday worship. Another fancy one is coming. But what I have here is your parish chalice. This was given to Monsignor Daring to the parish by an Irish bishop. Surprise, right? On the dedication day to be used on this altar. It's over 111 years old. Last Christmas at the pastor's wish list, I said, we need new chalices. And you guys came through. We have 2 new ones, and we have this one that's been replated, cleaned. And now it needs to be rededicated. It needs to be reblessed. This chalice that has held Christ for over 111 years needs to be today blessed. It will be redirected back to Jesus. The understanding is that even though the jeweler who did wonderful work, it now needs to be reblessed. It's been away from the altar. Something different was done to it. And even though that was done nobly, it now needs to be purified. Again, not that the jeweler is a bad guy, right? But it's made for priestly hands. Now, that sense of dedication, that blessing of our chalice, I want you to realize that it is not too dissimilar from your soul. Your soul is far more important than this chalice will ever be. Your soul also receives Jesus Christ. It holds the precious blood and the body. It is the precious blood and the body. You become one with him. Your soul is so beautiful. No amount of jewels, diamonds or otherwise, could ever speak about the nobility of your soul and your promise to him. But just like this chalice, we do things to our souls. But when something is rededicated, it's treated differently. If I were to ask one of the altar servers to go back and get a Dr. Pepper because I was thirsty and because I'm a snob and don't want to drink out of the can, and I reached for this chalice, how many of you would be a little upset if I just started to pour it into this chalice? How many of you would be horrified? The answer is all of you should be horrified if I poured Dr. Pepper into this chalice. Why? Because at your core, you intuitively know that Dr. Pepper is not meant for this chalice. Even though it might be for Waco, it is not for this chalice. Right? It might be good enough for you, but it's not good enough for this chalice. In the same way, sin is not good enough for you. You were meant for something more. And every time you reach for something that your soul was not made for, it is damaged. It's broken. And in its need of the divine physician, the jeweler, to heal, to rededicate, to redirect, to bring back home. That's why when we go to confession, in the act of contrition is an explicit statement that I will sin no more and I am going to live in Christ. Something along those lines. We are made for more. In the same way, though, it needs to be used. You can't just take a pretty chalice and hide it away. Do you know where I found this? I found this in our safe, hidden behind things. Hurt my heart. The day I found it was the day I decided that we were going to rededicate it and fix it up. It needs to be used. Grandma's, if you will, china is not good enough to sit in a china cabinet. It needs to be brought down at Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? It needs to be used. Otherwise, what are we doing? Reminds me of, I've been praying with this sense of it needs to be used. It needs to be cherished. My grandfather had a fiddle. And it was worn, it was used, it was broken, and it sat way up at a place that could be seen on a shelf, but unused. It was his grandfather's chalice, or his grandfather's fiddle. And the last time he had heard it played was when he was a young boy, when his grandfather would play for him his favorite song. When my grandfather reached the end of his days, one of my uncles had the bright idea to ferret, if you will, that fiddle away. He worked with my grandmother to kind of secretly take it away and had it restored. And then, for his birthday, had it played and had the musician play that song. Because a fiddle is meant to be played, not put away. It was precious, and it is precious, but it's meant to be used. In the same way as this chalice, as that fiddle, you are meant to not merely take your faith, your soul, and to put it away as something precious that you do on Sunday. Your baptismal promises are meant to be lived Monday through Saturday. The chalice that is unused and the fiddle that is unplayed is like the Christian who only prays on Sunday or never goes on Sunday. We're called to live our faith. We're called, if you will, to be unafraid, to put what needs to be put into our soul, to live from that place, and where we make mistakes, to not live in shame. For the times when we have poured Dr. Pepper into our soul, to trust the one who loves us. So often, when we, if you will, dent our soul, and we realize after a long while that we really haven't taken care of it, and we look down at our heart, and we examine our conscience, and we realize that it's a bit tarnished. I invite you after Mass to come forward to see how the chalice used to look and how it was tarnished and broken. We begin to believe that in fear, no one will understand. And we hear people tell us that we should hand it over. We should, let go and let God. That we should forgive and forget. But those, my brothers and sisters, are lies. You should not forgive and forget or to live and let go, because that belies the truth that what has been wounded is important. The reason you cannot forgive and forget or let go is because your soul is important. If this was to be damaged, I'm not just going to drop it. That's not the right response. You hold it close. That's the intuitive response. But where we have made promises and we have failed them, where we have lived as Christians and made mistakes, the Lord does not invite us to forgive and forget. The Lord invites us to trust and to forgive. Don't let go. Don't drop. Hand over. Trust the one you give your soul to. Trust the one who loves you. Hold it out to him. Hold it up to him. Surrender it over to him. And place it on the altar, the place of greatest trust. The fear you may have around your soul and the failings that you have carried, that's understandable. But today, even as you have made promises and that has changed the purpose of your soul and you have been rededicated and you know that you have made mistakes, those same promises should lead you to a trust and a vulnerability, not shame or fear. And it's okay if that trust and that vulnerability, where you open your heart and you tell him about whatever is broken, whatever has been tarnished in your soul, it's okay if that's scary. I'll admit that when I handed this chalice over to the jeweler, I just handed the patrimony of this parish over to somebody else. I don't know if that's scary. But when you trust and when you're vulnerable to God, he takes your soul beautifully in hand and restores it to something truly beautiful. And then tells you more about your soul than you knew. Our jeweler was able to do some research, and we realized this chalice was older than we thought. We thought this chalice was brass and then covered in gold, which is traditional, albeit economical. But we discovered that this chalice was pure gold, 100% all the way through. We got back something that we didn't realize we had. My brothers and sisters, today, as we conclude out our promises, my invitation for you is to realize it's okay that you have sinned, but it's not okay not to trust your heart to the Lord and to ask for forgiveness. to let your heart be like this chalice and be given over to the jeweler of your heart, the lover of your heart, the physician of your heart, the creator of your heart, and let him heal, restore, and redirect your heart. He has come, and he is small, but he is mighty. And your year has been hard. I understand what it means to be absolutely discouraged. But don't let that discouragement keep you in hiding. Don't let that discouragement keep you distant from the Lord, putting your soul away in a safe and put behind closets and bags of things. Realize that there's something more beautiful that needs to be put on to display. Because when we allow our hearts to do that, we become something worthy of being gazed at, and we call them saints. Our chalice is like your souls. And there is a greater patrimony here than this chalice. There are saints among us, saints in the making. Our parish is about welcoming sinners and fostering saints. So, for those of you who find that your chalice, your soul has been chipped, my invitation to you is that Advent is not over. Father Signs and I are here every day hearing confessions. The jeweler waits, the physician awaits. Don't be afraid of the beauty that's within.